Hello, everyone. Welcome to my sorry to my live session here on Iconic Nails. My name is Marlene Piplo. I'm a German nail tech and trainer for Iconic Nails. As you can see, Iconic Educator. I live in Germany and have 2 children, a horse and a dog, and we all live together here in Barcel. Today we are talking about something very important, product safety and the truth that lies behind the ingredient TPO. I'm not doing this on my own, and I'm incredibly excited, I really am excited to be here now tonight. Normally I do the German account live on Thursday, but tonight I'm here, or this evening. Well, I'm excited that somebody very special is joining us today. He truly is an expert when it comes to nail chemistry and safe product formulations. Please welcome the founder of Iconic Nails, Robert Giblet. I will look now if I can get him to this live. I have to see now. Yeah, so Robert, if you see this, you have to send a thing that I can invite you, because I can't abbrechen. I have to see now. There, wait, now. I will find it now. I invited him, so we have to wait. Where is he? Where is he? Hi to all that are looking. I hope you are as excited as I am, because I really am excited. I don't know why he didn't see this now. Is it that? I will ask him again. So I invited him. Howard, where are you? Did you see that I invited you already? Technic. I can see that he's online. Why can't he? So there's something wrong. Oh, wait. Here he is. Hi.
Hi, how are you,
How are
Marlene?
you?
I'm good, thank you. And how are
Yeah,
you?
that's great. I'm great too. Weather is not nice here in Barcelona. How is it in Aachen?
We have thunder and lightning today.
Oh, really?
Yeah, but the trees need it. You know, if
Yeah,
the grass is going to be green, you need some rain. So
that's right.
I
So,
think it's going to be okay tomorrow.
yes, I hope so, because I'm off to a festival for the weekend and we're going camping in a
Uh,
tent. So I hope it rain no more, because we'll be swimming. Yeah,
where's the festival?
in Manslacht. That's in a small village about an hour away from here.
Okay.
And it's a bit heavy metal and everything, so we'll be having a great time.
Okay. Well, I hope you have a good time. I think the weather should be fine tomorrow and the
Yeah, I hope
weekend. It
so.
looks okay. It looks
Me
okay.
too. Yeah.
So we're
So,
talking about TPO tonight, yes?
yes, I have 10 questions.
Right.
I had in the story, I had this question things. Oh, sorry. So, from our customers and followers, and I think we could start with number one.
All right. Go ahead.
What is TPO and why was it used in UV gels?
Right. Okay. So TPO is a photo initiator.
Mm,
Okay. But it's not exclusively used in UV gels. It's used widely throughout industry. Okay.
mm,
The full name, and I'm going to have to check it here to get it right. Okay. Is the phenol 2,4,6 trimethyl benzyl phosphine oxide. So that's the complete name. That means it's a little bit tricky for people to check their product labels or their safety data sheets. So I'm going to give you a way to do that. We can maybe add this in the comments later. There's some of these chemical names, right, which we're going to talk about today. So they're quite long and difficult to remember. So first of all, there's different types of chemical names, okay? So in different countries, certain ingredients will be called one thing or another, right? In order to kind of harmonize that, so everybody working in safety, which includes obviously cosmetics, but also in industry, knew what an ingredient was on the product label. They created a database called the INSEE library, which is the International Chemical Identification Library, okay? So within this, every chemical has a unique name. It may have other names in other countries and other industries, but it has one name which is only allowed to be used on the product label or in the safety data sheet, okay? Now, in addition to that, they also have names depending on different authorities. So, for example, there's a CAS number, CAS number, which is widely used in America. So this, again, is like a reference. It's like a unique number for that ingredient. And you will find that in the safety data sheet. So it'll say the name, it'll say the CAS number. It may also say an EU number. An EU number is coming from the European Cosmetics Association, who also give them numbers. But the most reliable way to identify an ingredient, because even some ingredients have the same INSEE name, it's very confusing. Most don't, but there are some kind of gotchas there. And so what I would do is I would always check the CAS number. So look in your safety data sheet, okay? Check the CAS number against the TPO CAS number, which I will give you in the comments at the end of the live, okay? And that'll make it easier.
So I'll save the live after.
Yeah, and I'll also, be doing an email on this maybe this weekend. It depends what other work I have to do, but I know it's a matter of big concern right now for people. Yeah. So that's what it is. It's a photo initiator. There are other photo initiators. It's one that works very well with 405 nanometers light, which today is generated by LEDs. LEDs today can also generate 365 nanometer light, but when they first came out, they couldn't. They were doing 405. So it's extremely widely used. It's the most popular photo initiator in the UV gel and gel polish products worldwide. It's not restricted to a certain region. Some people said, oh, it's very widely known in China. Well, China has more factories than anywhere else. That's why. But I can, I'm well aware of products that come from 2 of the American factories and factories in Europe, in Germany, and other countries that also use TPO. And it has some serious advantages compared to other photo initiators. So I hope that answers the first part of the question.
I think you did. So the second question was, why is TPO no longer allowed in cosmetics in Europe?
Right. Okay. Well, it's not just Europe; it's also the UK now as well. Because although the UK is not part, and he said we. Although the UK is not part of Europe anymore, a lot of the regulations, a lot of the laws are still from the time that it was in Europe, when actually it was helping to make those very laws. Okay. So when they kind of left the EU, they couldn't suddenly end up with no laws. So they kind of took the European ones with the idea that they would change them over time, which they really haven't done very much. And I don't expect them to. So, okay, so why is it no longer allowed in cosmetics, you said? Well, it's not an issue of cosmetics. This TPO is widely used in industry. And I'll give you some examples here because I kind of listed some of them, all right? So it's used in 3 main groups. It's used in plastics, it's used in fabrics, material, and it's used in paper, okay? So if we look at plastics, some of the uses include food containers, toys, and mobile phones. So certainly food containers, it can come out of the food container, the plastic, especially if you're microwaving. You should never microwave food containers, okay? Because you get microplastics plus other chemicals will come into the food in quite high doses, all right? So only use glass or porcelain or crockery for microwave use. And toys, obviously, you know, baby chewing on a toy, mobile phones in our hands all the darn time, or in our pockets, I suppose. Fabrics, clothes, treatments, different treatments, mattresses we sleep on, curtains, okay, and also toys made of cloth.
Oh,
Paper, you've got tissues, you've got feminine hygiene products, you've got nappies, and books and magazines. Now, in addition to this, it's also used in industrial adhesives. So, you know, if you want some kind of glue and you want it to cure very, you know, to harden very quickly, they use UV cured adhesives, very widely used. UV printing, very widely used in industry. Okay, most electronic circuit boards are using some form of UV printing, but it's used in other applications as well. And what was the other one I was going to mention? And the other one is actually that's the main ones. That's the main ones I would say. It's probably enough for now. Yeah. So the thing is that we're exposed to this chemical in many different ways.
yeah,
Okay, because it's very widely used, and when you're, you know, when it's everywhere, it's a little bit like HEMA. The problem with HEMA, as much as anything, was it was being used in so many products. So whether it's used in a prep, or whether it's used in a gel polisher, it's used in a top, or used in acrylic, or used in sculpting gels, you know, it was everywhere. And so the risk of being overexposed, even to, you know, just occasional skin contact over years, meant that you could develop allergies from it. And it's the same thing, you know, it's the risk of exposure to a chemical which increases the risk. You know, if you're only going to come face to face with it once in 20 years, probably not much is going to happen, right? But when you're living with the damn thing, and then there's a greater risk. Now, a study was done by the Germans, and they did some tests using rats. Okay. Now, they found that it basically made the rats sick, and I'll talk more about that later in another question you've got coming up. But here's the thing. You know, I personally think, you know, I personally think the EU has lost their mind about this. And I have to say that the sponsor of this action was Sweden. The same Sweden, you know, that restricted HEMA and restricted DHEMA. And, you know, they keep on doing stupid things, to be perfectly honest with you. They don't have any balance. What do I mean by that? Well, we've been using this chemical, you know, for 40 plus years. And scientists have to test a bunch of rats to discover there's a problem. People aren't turning up at hospitals sick. They're not attributing certain illnesses to this in humans yet. And of course there's a risk. Well, there's a risk to many things, yes? So on the other hand, you know, the EU refused to ban this time. They were planning to, and then they decided not to, over 10,000 permanent chemicals, which we do know are causing major health issues. You know, in society, which can even include things like Alzheimer's. It can include the fact that male sperm counts are dropping like a stone, and you know, other ills we have. The reason why so many people have chronic allergies today, right? I mean, it's all part of the environment, and the EU decided not to ban those where there's clear evidence. And yet TPO, where there isn't clear evidence other than testing on rats one time, okay, not even reproduced across 10 different scientists, right, to check the results, right? They did it one time and they used enormous amounts of TPO, which they fed orally or they injected.
Oh.
So how much did they use? Well, were using 600 milligrams per kilogram of body weight.
Mm.
So 600 milligrams is like 0.6 per kilo. Now you imagine if, let's say that you're a male, 100 kilos, and they're giving you 60 kilos of TPO for breakfast every day.
Yeah.
What do you think would happen? You know, so I mean, maybe I don't understand. I've misunderstood something because I'm not a toxicologist, but you know, this is what I see, and I think it's nonsense. I think they had to, you know, it's a little bit like this cancer scare that there was a
Yeah.
couple of years ago, where they put some stem cells in a dish, and they massively overexposed it to UV. They did, I mean, they increased the amount of brightness that they by several factors. They then increased the curing time, which would normally be 1 or 2 minutes to like 10 minutes each time, and they did it 3 times. So, you know, it's almost like they're trying to sterilize the things anyway, rather than actually make any kind of reasonable test. So anyway, it's done. And, you know, the EU applied to the WTO and told them we're going to ban this. So, you know, this is an unfair trade practice. We're not just trying to stop foreign products coming in because of this ingredient. It's actually, we think, it's a serious health issue. And all of that was kind of done 2-3 years ago. So we knew in 2021 it was pretty serious.
Yeah.
And the decision was made, I think it was June 2023. And by October 2023, we'd reformulated those products which had TPO in our products. So that's where we are today. That's where we are today. So it's not because of cosmetics is being banned. There's been no test, there's been no proof that there's any kind of harm in terms of reproductive harm, which is the main problem with this TPO. The reason it was banned is because of potential reproductive fertility damage, right? Okay.
Yeah.
Now, TPO, like all photoinitiators, is also an allergen to some extent, right?
Yeah.
And 10 years ago, I think it was maybe 2012, the EU tried to ban TPO on the grounds of potential allergy risk, okay? And the industry appealed against that, and that decision was reversed after 6 months or so. And what the EU did instead was they made it a professional only use ingredient. So in theory, you couldn't have sold it to hobbyists, your products to hobbyists, which of course they did, everybody did, nobody was measuring it or checking it.
I know.
And also you couldn't use more than 5%. But, you know, it's not such a huge allergen that they bothered to put it in the standard patch test.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
you know.
So the next one is TPO harmful for health?
I think it's really, you know, from my side, it's nothing that I'd be particularly concerned about. I'm much more concerned about other chemicals in the environment and what's in the food than I am about TPO, to be perfectly honest with you.
Yeah, well, they say that the fertility and it could...
Yeah, but, you know, again, we're talking about, you know, giving rats 600 milligrams, per kilogram of body weight. I mean, these are huge doses that they gave to these rats. Yeah, sure. But, you know, here's the thing, you know, there was a report, I think 5 years ago, which estimated that by 2040, males in most countries of the world could actually be sterile.
Yeah.
Why? Because of all the chemicals in the environment. Why aren't we worried about that?
I know.
You know, so it's. I think there's no balance here. It's not something I would worry about personally. You know.
Yeah. Mm. Yeah, okay, so what's the difference between TPO and other photo initiators?
Right. Okay. Well, the main thing is, first of all, the actual wavelength of the UV that it operates on. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
because it operates like this. If the light is in the middle, it creates the biggest reaction from the photoinitiator.
Mm-hmm.
So some are tuned to 365, some are tuned to 405, and some are tuned to other frequencies we don't use in UV gels. And like anything, different substances, different chemicals have different levels of efficiency.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, just like anything. I mean, you know, if you have 10 hot water kettles and you turn them on, some of them will boil faster than others.
Yeah.
That's the efficiency, right? Even if they use the same amount of power, they have the same kind of heating elements, the design will mean that they are different. So it's the same with the other photoinitiators. They have some plus and they have some minus. Now,
Mm-hmm.
TPO was a very efficient photoinitiator.
Yeah.
So what does that mean? It means you could use a smaller amount to generate the kind of chain reaction
Yeah.
of the polymerization that you wanted. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
Which is great because you know it's kind of a bit of an allergen like other photoinitiators. So the less you use, the safer the products, right?
Yep.
The other advantage of TPO was that it didn't cause yellowing during the curing. Now, some of the alternatives do cause yellowing during curing.
Oh,
So might be okay for like a colored gel or gel polish, but may
yeah.
not be good for, say, a clear top coat.
Yeah.
Okay, because you'd get this yellowy kind of cast
Mm-hmm.
to the top or the base. Some are lower efficiency, so you're going to have to use more of it to get
Mm-hmm.
the result. So, you know, unfortunately, we don't have a huge choice.
No.
So we had 5 options before, generally speaking. We're now down to 4. Doesn't take much to lose those.
Yeah. I have a question here.
Yeah.
Are most modern photo initiators in UV gels turned to 405 nanometers? Does that mean most lamps should theoretically cure most gels with enough irradiance and time? Radiance and time, sorry.
Yeah. Well, okay. So there are some photo initiators that are they're more tuned to 365, okay,
Mm,
360-ish, and some which are 405. Now, in the old days of glass bulb mercury lamps,
mm.
which Marlene started with,
Yeah,
so did I. But you
a
had to
long
wind
time
me up every
ago.
morning. Those actually generated a fairly broad spectrum of UV light, but they were focused more on 360, 365. Okay. So when the first gel polishes came out, the first brand to kind of bring them out also brought out an LED UV light. And at the time, you couldn't get LEDs at a reasonable price,
Mm,
which would generate UV at 365 nanometers. So the only option was 405.
yeah,
This was a problem because if you bought their gel polishes, you had to have their light because the old UV glass bulb light wasn't bright enough at 405,
mm,
right? It wouldn't cure properly.
yeah.
So it meant you had to have your old lamp for your hard gels, and you had to
Yeah,
have
another
the
lamp
other
for
lamp
me. Yeah.
for the gel polishes. And that's pretty much how the story continued, for several years after that. And so people became very fixated on, the wavelengths of a UV light, okay?
Yeah.
Because you really need to know what the question you have to ask is this gel, especially hard gels, because gel polishes you knew were going to be 405, but the hard gels, were these, are these the old ones that still cured with 365, or are these the new LED UV gels which cure at 405? Do you remember all of this? Right. So it's very important for you to check that, because you may find that a new gel that you bought wouldn't cure in your LED lamp because it was an old formula basically. Okay. So of course over years prices of LEDs dropped, and lamps started to appear which contained both. So you have half of the lamps contain LEDs with 405, and the other half will create light at 365. Okay, that means that you could now use both your old formula gels, which you loved, together with the new gel polishes. Okay, today this whole thing of UV wavelength isn't an issue. It stopped being an issue probably 7 or 8 years ago, when these hybrid lamps containing both became really popular and really affordable. Okay, and nearly all brands offered them, with a few notable exceptions, who will remain, who I will not mention who they are.
Okay.
Because they have their own reasons.
Yeah.
It's all about marketing. Anyway, so that's the situation really. So today the issue about curing is not about the wavelength. It's about the brightness. It always was about the brightness, but nobody talked about this. Okay, we started to talk about this because, somebody had to, and I hope now that more and more people understand that the main issue is the brightness, and whether that's matched to the type of photoinitiator in your product and the amount of photoinitiator used. Okay, because those three things are what affect whether it will cure correctly or not.
Okay.
Okay.
Yes. Question
5, is it?
5. Yes, sorry. How can I tell if a product contains TPO?
Okay, like I said, you can either look on the label and see if it has diphenyl 2,4,6 trimethylbenzoyl phosphine oxide, or you can
Great
look
word. Great
or you
word.
can look in the safety data sheet.
I think I can see it.
I mean, if you see trimethyl and then you see blah 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 phosphine oxide, that's TPO, right? So it's making it from the capitals of
But it's a law, isn't
each
it?
word.
It's a law. It's a law that you have to have this on your label.
Sure,
If it's
sure. We can
Okay.
talk about that in a moment if you like.
Yeah.
Also, you must have it in the safety data sheet.
Sorry?
Okay.
I
You
was
must
just
also have a list of all the ingredients in the safety
yeah.
data sheet.
Yeah.
And as I told you before, apart from the name, you also will have the CAS number, the CAS number. So the CAS number for TPO is 95980 minus 60 minus 8. Okay, and that is a unique number. You could type into Google CAS this, and it will come up with TPO.
Okay.
Might be the factory producing TPO, might be products using TPO, might be description of TPO, but that will find TPO,
Okay.
that CAS number. Okay.
That's good. So I have another question here. Is brightness more intense if the hand is elevated closer to the LED bulbs?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Okay, so we don't live in a vacuum like space, right? So what that means is that light is affected and deteriorates, it reduces by distance. Now, if that wasn't true, I could go out into my garden tonight with my handheld torch and and people in Australia could potentially see it, right? But we know that depending on your torch, the light may not even get to the end of the garden. Or if you're in your car, you know that your lights, the further you drive on main beam, the lighter they get. Yes, the nearer they are, the brighter.
Yeah.
And that's very true. So in lamp design, there's several factors that affect it. The first, obviously, is the source of the light. How bright is the bulb? How bright is the LED? How many are there? Right? Okay. The next is the distance from the LEDs to the top of the nails.
Yeah.
And you might remember that there were some companies some years ago that made very narrow, very low LED lamps.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You could hardly put your hand in.
You could hardly get your hand in there.
Yeah.
Yeah. It allowed them to use 2 UV bulbs instead of 4. Probably was the reason, I imagine. So distance, distance is a factor. Now, in the days of the old UV bulbs, it was also important that the inside of the lamp had reflectors.
Yeah.
Okay. And I'm trying to think how I can illustrate this to you. Okay, so let me just make a bulb. Okay, here's a bulb. It's glass all the way around.
Yeah.
When the light goes on, the light is coming out from every direction. Right, here's the roof of the lamp. Okay? So maybe 40% of that light is going into the roof. If that roof was dark, that light wouldn't be going anywhere else.
Yeah.
You've wasted it, right? It's inefficient. Whereas if you put a mirror above this, the light will bounce off and then bounce down to the nail. Okay? And that's why the old glass bulb, mercury bulb, UV lamps had reflectors everywhere.
Yeah.
LED lamps don't need it. And that's because they have, instead of a 360 radiation of light, they have, I think it's like 30%. So if that's your LED bulb, you know, the light is kind of coming 30% down. So just like this. So it's much more intensive. Also, it's that they're much brighter. Their brightness curve is much sharper because they're really focusing their energy into this one narrow spot, okay, rather than the glass bulbs, which were more broad. So you don't need reflectors in UV lamps.
Okay.
So yes, distance makes a difference.
Oh, good. So next question. What does reprotoxic mean, and does it only affect pregnant women?
No. So reprotoxic basically means any kind of, it's the effect of any chemical, toxic chemical, on fertility. And that could be male or female fertility. It can also be the effect on unborn children or children. Okay, so for example, with TPO, the rats.
Yeah.
What happened with the men, the male rats, was their testicles got much smaller.
Yeah.
Got really smaller, and their sperm count reduced greatly. They also became very lethargic. Not really surprising. You don't feel a joy of life if your testicles are reduced to pee.
No, I don't think so. But I don't know, like.
A rat's life is not a happy one. And then, as far as the females were concerned, their monthly cycles or their menstrual cycles, I don't know if it's monthly with rats, became irregular. They also became lethargic, and they also had some changes within their gynecology, let's say that, yes. The fetuses that were eventually created, if you know, over somehow, had skeletal deformities. Yeah. So they had shoulder blades that were bent and spines that were damaged and things like this. So that's basically what reprotoxicity means. Yeah. It's an effect on fertility, male, female, fetus, babies.
Yeah.
Okay.
I have another question here. Do most ingredients that gel manufacturers source for their formulas, including TPO, come from China?
I can't say most. Um, I don't, you see, this kind of information, even the sources, the actual factories that companies buy from, is part of their intellectual property and company secrets.
Mm.
They're not going to tell anybody.
Yeah.
Well, by law in Europe, you have to have it within a document called a product information file,
Mm.
which is a document containing all information about the product,
Yeah.
which you must be able to present to the authorities if so asked. So if there's a health issue and a claim, they will come to you and you will have to show them this product information file, which
Mm.
contains the names of the suppliers, contains the formula, contains
Yeah.
the method of manufacturing, everything you need to know, right? Now,
Yeah.
obviously, that's a very secret document, okay? Yeah, I mean, it's not even provided to the authorities as a general document. They have to come and ask you and have a reason, okay?
Yeah.
And I have no way of knowing, where companies are buying the reality is, I mean, we can short circuit this a little bit because we're just playing some kind of mind games in a way, or I am. 99.95% of products in the market come from factories.
Yeah.
The vast majority of factories are in China,
Mm.
and it would make sense that most of them use ingredients produced in China.
Yeah.
Why would you increase the cost of product in shipping and price by buying from Europe?
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe some do, you know, but I'd be surprised. And do some European factories buy from China ingredients? Possibly.
Yeah.
You know, something like 80% of the world's medicines are made in China too.
Mm.
Okay, so
Oh.
it's not that all things from China are bad. I would never say that. I have a lot of respect for China and their technology and history and all that stuff, right? I don't have a problem with that. I have a problem if any factory is producing products which are unsafe
Mm.
and knowingly
Yeah.
unsafe and deliberately price bombing them to
Mm.
destroy our local market.
Yeah.
And in the meantime, affecting the health and careers of thousands of nail techs who are in a kind of people caring business.
Mm.
I just think it's offensive. Okay. And,
Yeah.
and that's my problem. And the fact is that the vast majority of widespread allergy reports,
Mm.
let's say, are linked to a few brands, and all those brands can be traced back to China.
Yeah.
They're not traced back to America. They're not traced back to Germany. They're not traced back to Sweden. They're not traced back to Italy or Switzerland.
Mm.
They're traced back to China.
Yeah.
Okay? And that's the problem I have. And again, it's not a question of are their ingredients dangerous? No, it's the way you formulate something.
Yeah.
You know, you don't have to use acids today if
No.
your formula is good. We used acids in the past because we couldn't get the adhesion. We didn't
Yeah.
have the knowledge of how to formulate, UV gels that would stay on nails for weeks.
Mm.
Without lifting.
Yeah.
We didn't really start. I mean, even when we started our salon in 2006, the majority of UV gels at that time would lift after 3 or 4 weeks,
Mm.
and it wasn't until really our ultimate gel came out, which I think was 2011. That was pretty much the first non-lifting gel that we saw.
Yeah. That was perfect.
So
Yeah.
now today, I think more and more products are kind of non-lifting
Mm.
if they're applied correctly and they're cured correctly. But, there's two ways of getting to that point. One is through clever chemistry, especially when you're removing, high allergy risk ingredients like HEMA
Yeah.
or HPMA or any of the other ingredients which are in the patch test. Then it becomes very, very difficult.
Yeah.
And few companies can do that. But, there's no reason
Sorry.
for the Chinese factories to be using acids and high doses of HEMA and high doses of other high allergy risk ingredients, which they were using. And they knew what the result would be. They were simply doing it because they didn't have the clever chemistry and they didn't want to invest the R&D and they wanted to produce a cheap product where adhesion was the highest priority, not health. Yeah.
That's right. So I have another two questions.
Right.
Should these documents not be made public for transparency and safety? And where are, sorry, I don't know what's wrong. Where are the iconic products made?
The iconic products are made in Germany. And what was that about the documents? I didn't understand this.
Sorry, yes. Should these the documents that you were talking about a while ago, should the documents not be made public for transparency and safety?
No, because you don't know what they are.
Yeah.
Would you expect, Apple to give you their circuit diagrams of their phones? No, it's not necessary.
Okay. One more question here in the comments. Is IBOA and DHEMA as allergic as HPMA?
Sorry, say that again.
Is IBOA and DHEMA as allergic as HPMA?
I
Allergenic,
would
sorry.
like, could you tell me the name of the person who asked that?
Nail crafting.
Nail crafting, okay. Because this is, I've been asked this question before, and, how to say this in a diplomatic way. There was a comment made by a very well-known personality in the nail industry some years ago that claimed that IBOA was a higher allergy risk than HEMA. This was totally false. It was totally unproved. And the European Chemicals Agency published a report on IBOA in 2018. They didn't even mention allergies caused by IBOA in nail products. They cited 2 cases of allergies, which were not widespread. One was in a television factory in the 80s, and IBOA was used in a glue to stick the old glass screen together, and people had it on their hands all day.
Yeah.
The second, more recent example of allergies was in diabetic instruments, glucose monitors. There were 2 companies who produced these monitors which used IBOA in the plaster which attached the sensor to the skin.
Yeah.
And again, they used high amounts of it. Now, IBOA is an acrylate. If you put nearly any acrylate onto the skin and you're either working on it every day, 300 days a year, okay, it's getting on your skin, or you've got it on a patch on your skin for 14 days at a time, every time you're getting your glucose monitored, it's not surprising that allergies result. And the individual who made this claim knew this. He was a very qualified individual. He had other reasons for making this claim. And one of the things that I will say to you is that IBOA is used by 3 out of 5 hypoallergenic brands. Okay.
Yeah.
As far as DHEMA is concerned, the European Chemical Agency also did a report on DHEMA, I think probably around 2015, I don't remember exactly. where they analysed it and they came back, the scientific SECP, which is like the scientific advisory board, which actually make the decisions about what ingredients are allowed and not allowed in cosmetics. And they came back and said that DHEMA can be used at up to 99%.
Mm.
Up to 99% in a product. In other words, we don't see any problem with this at all. Okay, there's no risk at all as far as we can see. You can use up to 99%.
Yeah.
So 100% wasn't even practical. Okay.
Yeah.
Because you can't get a pure DHEMA pure to more than 99%. DHEMA has molecular weight, which is something like 472, if I remember correctly. That means the weight of the actual molecule. Okay, that's an indication of its size. It's generally thought in cosmetology and dermatology that in order for a substance to penetrate the skin, it has to have a molecular weight which is less than 500.
Yeah.
Now, HEMA is like 130, so very, very much smaller molecule than the potential skin hole size, right? But DHEMA is 470, it's nearly 500. So the risk of it getting through the skin, unless you're really getting massive overexposure, is negligible.
Okay.
The whole thing about DHEMA being becoming a professional only use ingredient was due to one study in Sweden, after a mass allergy outbreak where a company was selling gel polish through beauty salons, which originated in China, although this wasn't widely published, right? The thing about DHEMA is that it's produced from HEMA.
Yeah.
So if you don't buy high quality DHEMA, there's a risk of contamination.
Yeah.
Right? They didn't even have a standard patch test for DHEMA. So the dermatologist who worked in the university, who was employed to do this job, had to make his own patch test. It was never repeated by anybody else. This is not scientific proof. This is like this individual statement about Iboa. Nobody has ever proven scientifically or published in any dermatological paper that Iboa has caused allergies when used in nail products. Anybody who claims anything else, please show me the link, the reference in a peer-reviewed scientific or medical paper. You won't find it, okay? I guarantee it. So, you know, we have to always look at why certain statements are made, okay? And why they decided to jump onto DHEMA, I think it was because it could be that they analyzed other products in China and they saw some with DHEMA and it had very high amounts of HEMA as well. And they thought it was a way to restrict certain products coming onto the market. I don't know, you know, scientifically, it makes absolutely no sense.
Okay.
So I don't, in my view, and I'm not a toxicologist or a chemist, but I've been studying this subject, you know, for 14, 15 years, and I've read a lot of scientific papers, all right, and obviously talk with my chemists. DHEMA is amongst professional product chemists, is considered a safe ingredient, one of the safest. TPO is considered to be a safe ingredient, a mild allergen, which you should limit the amount of.
Yeah.
Okay. And Iboa absolutely considered to be, you know, a pretty safe ingredient. Again, you know, go and look Iboa allergy. So if you want to check an ingredient, go to Google, type XYZ, name the ingredient, allergy, nail products
Mm.
or gel allergy. You do that for HEMA, you'll end up with pages and pages of
Yeah.
results. Okay? You won't find it for these other ingredients.
Okay.
All right?
I think now there's another question over lamps here
Great,
again.
great.
So, lamps that are fully reflective inside are curing better or faster. How can we tell if the product is properly cured?
If you're using an LED UV lamp, you should not need reflectors inside. Having said that, if it has a reflective flaw, sure, the light will bounce up and some will be reused. But then think of the distances traveling means it's going to be much weaker.
Mm.
The point is that you can design a lamp without a LED UV lamp without any reflectors, and because of the way that the light is focused downwards,
Mm.
you've got a very high efficiency. Okay. I'd also beg the question that if you've got your hand over a reflective floor,
Mm.
the light isn't going to come through the fingers, right?
Yeah.
So, what's the benefit? Okay. So,
Yeah.
and how can you do a pedicure if you can't take the floor off?
You can't.
You can't. So the lamp has to be designed, if it's serious,
Yeah.
to cure from the light directly coming from above without any reflections. Okay. Now, that is then up to the brand, especially if the brand is buying a generic lamp. Because here's the thing, here's a little insider information.
Yeah.
You know, the cost of producing a unique lamp is enormous. The cost to have a company create a die for a mold for the plastic
Mm.
is tens of thousands of euros. If you then take that and then you've got the electronic design as well, okay, it's got to pay for that. You then go to a factory, and you'd have to go to a factory in China pretty much,
Yeah.
and you say, here's my unique lamp, please make it for me. They'll ask for 50,000 to 100,000 units. There's very few brands in the world that are going to sell anything close to that within 5 years.
Yeah.
Okay? Because most people keep their lamps for 2 or 3 years. It's
Yeah.
not. It's not a commodity that a consumable. It's not a consumable. In the same way that wipes or gel polish, tops or bases is that you buy it every month, right? Or files. So yes, some companies do it, but I think there's very much little money in it for them. Other brands, what they do is they go to the factory in China and they say, okay, put our logo on it.
Mm.
Okay, and that's what we did too. We found the factory, Sun, which has produced more than 9 million lamps
Mm.
since it was created, which has another subsidiary company that makes LEDs.
Mm.
So they have very high technology
Yeah.
within their company, right? Which I'm an engineer. I can discover things like this, yes?
Yeah.
And we took this standard lamp because why not? The thing is that what's very important for you is reliability.
Mm.
If you're buying electronics from abroad, what you don't want is half of them to fail. Okay, within a year, because you as the brand is then responsible for that.
Yeah.
Costs you a fortune. You lose any profit. You probably affect profit from other products too.
Yeah.
So the easiest thing to do is to find a high quality, reliable UV lamp and put your own logo on it. Now, I would argue that, we've decided to just even stop with that because what's the point? Why should we have, shelves and shelves and shelves and shelves of LED lamps when you can buy the same lamp on Amazon?
Yeah.
And we don't have a warranty issue. You get it faster, okay?
Mm.
And you get it at a better price because the price you're buying in a lot of cases on Amazon, not every case, is a factory price.
Mm.
same kind of price that we would get, especially when the logo is put on, which adds
Yeah.
price. And we've got to bring it from China. We've got to pay the import duty. We've got to calculate any warranties. And we've got this basically money sitting on the shelf for a year or 2 years. It depends on how many you buy in your order and how many you sell. So we would rather invest our money into developing new gel products, which are unique to us,
Yeah.
not spending our money with other factories' products. And so you can take and all of this is perfectly legitimate, providing that when you get the lamp, whichever source you buy it from, you then test it with your own products. Okay? And you've got two options. You either adjust the brightness of the lamp, which is absolutely impossible for nearly any company except the very, very largest. Okay, because of the cost of remanufacturing or changing. Or you adjust the formula, the photo initiator, within the product. Okay? So by doing that, you can ensure that you get perfectly cured product. The problem is that if you're buying your gels from factory X and you've got a lamp over here, you've no idea how bright that lamp is. You can't measure it. You've got no tool to measure it. You don't know how much photo initiator are in the products that that factory is selling you.
Yeah.
How are you going to change it? How are you going to make those two things come together? So you've got perfect curing. You can only do that if you produce your own products.
Oh. I have another question. Are you working on a new system of Builder Gel Clear?
Do I look like I'm losing my hair? Yes, we are. We are.
For
I
that.
mean, Evolution, which is our soak-off builder, which is a very strong soak-off builder gel, and also for extensions, is back in stock. Thank goodness. There's a lot of issues with certain ingredients in the market right now, and
Yeah.
actually photo initiators, because everybody's changing, and there's a shortage. And
I can't hear you anymore, Robert.
you can't hear me?
Yeah, you're back again.
Okay, yeah. The
Yeah.
low power thing came up. Let me just turn the power bank on again. Hold on.
Okay.
Hold on. Oh yeah, now it's coming. I think the cable was a bit wobbly.
Yeah.
Sorry, where were we, Marlene? I got distracted.
New system of Builder
Oh
Clear.
yeah, the builder, yeah. Right,
Builder
okay.
Gel, Builder Clear.
Yeah,
Builder Gel.
let me just say it like this. It's not going as smoothly as I would hope. This is difficult chemistry. It's really
Oh,
difficult. It's not just something you kind of put in the oven and expect it to work,
I
without
know.
a lot of tests and changes. It's the highest priority really for us. The evolution's there, so if you want to build a gel, it's a great product. It's kind of a higher viscosity, so maybe it's a little bit too high for some people. I know, rather than a medium, but it's a high priority. That's all I can tell you. I would love to have it right now. Really, I would.
Please see my question. Wait, I don't know. Can we see if the product is How can we see if the product is cured? It
You
might look
can't.
hard, but it's not cured.
You can't really. You can't. And the reason you can't is that if you put some gel on a form and you put it in the lamp, and you cure it, and this is the myth. It's been in the industry for 100 years. You kind of pull it up, and if it's not wet underneath or sticky, then it's cured.
Mm.
But a gel is hard enough to file when it's only 50% ish cured,
Yeah.
right? So visually, there's no way of knowing. There's no way of knowing. You have to use scientific equipment in order to know. And you have to look at the amount of energy that's being released during the curve, during the curing, and see when that ends. Essentially, and it's impossible. Which is why there are so many allergies. It's not, most allergies, I mean, first of all, are caused by all allergies are caused by skin contact. So there's a problem there, right? Okay,
Yeah.
there's no hiding that. But if you're using a product with excessive amounts of HEMA and maybe even acids, the amount of skin contact you need to develop an allergy can go from 10 years to 10 weeks. Okay? And that's why we're seeing so many allergies now, because what we saw prior to Chinese products coming into the market was the only people who got allergies were old timers who'd been in the industry for 20 years, never wore gloves, never really took care. Their gel brushes were sticky. I mean, it was they were walking through fire every day. I just stop it, they won't hurt me. It never happened to me. But they didn't even know because the brands didn't educate about allergies. Okay,
that's
there's
it.
one brand that did, which was CND, but nobody else. And every lamp manufacturer, every brand is saying, "Oh, lamp will cure all gels," and every gel manufacturer saying, "No, well, I'm working all lamps," and they're all liars. I mean, these lies were going on they're still going on, but they're at least 30, 40 years old. And I mean. So it's not improved really. I mean, yes, you can say that allergies are caused by skin contact, but they're also caused by lies.
They're
caused by lies.
right.
They're caused by brands selling you a product which they can't guarantee, and they have no way of even knowing if it's correctly curing because they don't employ a chemist. They could even hire a consultant, but they don't, right? And they have no way of knowing whether what they're selling is safe or not.
Wait, no, I have more here. First of all, thank you for all your hard work, Robert.
Very welcome.
Yes.
Thanks
Then
for
I
listening.
have is the original Evolution Soak of Builder made for curing in 365 or 405 nanometers?
It has 405. It's 405. Yeah.
Then, what do we tell our clients about TPO?
Yeah. Probably nothing. I don't like not being transparent. I think probably from some of my comments you can see that, right? I'm probably
Oh,
more
yes.
outspoken than most people in the industry because I don't really care. So, and I can back up what I say because as an engineer, I check stuff, right? Facts are important to me.
Yeah.
And I'm doing what I'm doing because it's a vocation. It's not, I can make money in easier ways, trust me, than this. So this is something that I saw friends getting allergies, and I wanted to do something about, right? Including you. So, sorry, what was the question again, Marlene? It feels like Friday night.
I know. What will we tell our clients
Oh
about
yeah, clients,
TPO?
right. I wouldn't tell them anything, really. I don't think it's a serious health issue from their perspective. It was a decision made because of use in industry, okay, plus also consumer goods.
Yeah.
I mean, my only action inside or outside the salon is now I would be extra careful not to microwave stuff in takeaway containers or Tupperware containers or anything. I mean, I have done in the past, of course, like everybody, right? But I'm really becoming aware of that, and it's not just TPO, it's all these permanent chemicals, microplastics, nanoplastics, which they're finding now in fetus. They're finding in the placenta, they're finding in the brain. This stuff is nasty, and so that's my main area of concern, right?
Okay.
If they ask about it, just say, look, it's an industrial thing. It's an industrial thing.
Yeah.
It was widely used in excessive amounts in industry. There's also risk because it was in food containers, it was in toys,
Yeah.
and a lot of things that we're contacting on our skin every day, and also microparticles that could come from these plastics, that it was considered a health risk. But, there's never been any proven damage to health when used in nail salons.
Okay.
Yeah. We use it on the skin, on the nail, not even on the skin, we use it on the nail. The risk of it being transferred is negligible.
Okay.
And we use it in such small amounts. Usually, it has to, by law, less than 5% of, most serious brands from the EU or USA will be using it in 1 or 2%. Negligible.
So, well, you just told us about can it be absorbed through the skin?
Yeah, well, it's an allergen, so yes, it potentially could be, yes.
Yeah.
If,
And then
how are you going to do that?
yeah.
You just, skin contact is not easy. It's not. I'm sorry, it's not easy. If you cannot develop an allergy through the nail plate.
Yeah.
This was subject of a research in Germany some years ago, and I'm trying to find the original paper because it was a chemist here who told me about it, but he can't remember where he read it. This is the problem. But now Doug even mentioned this a couple of weeks ago in a post.
Yeah.
And of course, it always makes sense, nonsense, because if this stuff struggles to get through the skin, I mean, it's not just one contact; it has to be repeated contact, and for the allergy to develop quickly, and for the immune system to react, this overexposure either has to, be over a very long time, or very high amounts of the allergen, right, which collapses that exposure time, right?
Okay.
So how then is it going to get through 100 layers of keratin? It's a nonsense. Always was a nonsense.
Yeah.
So what about onycholasis, you could ask? What about also onycholasis that came out? Well, the only thing that has been proven to cause onycholasis, which as an ingredient in nail products, are acids.
Yeah.
And this was known 30 years ago. Now, having known all of this, that it's not possible to develop allergies through the nail plate, that the most likely cause of all the onycholasis we saw in white bottle builders was due to them having two acids, not one which is on the product label, but two. And yet, this individual who was making unwise comments about Iboa misled the entire industry. He couldn't possibly have proven anything about what he said. And he didn't apply first scientific principles either.
Oh.
And also he treated it like it was a proof. It wasn't. Scientific proof comes from you having a theory and multiple independent individuals repeat that experiment. That's scientific proof. That's why when you publish something, you send your article to the magazine and other experts have to check if it's viable or not. So when you get somebody who is supposedly highly educated, who would understand what scientific method is, making false statements, and other people, also personalities in this industry, picking up on that, they're all misleading the industry. And you have to ask why.
Yeah, that's it. I have another question here. It's not stopping. When we throw away the dust from filing cured gel, are we adding to the microplastic problem?
What a wonderful question.
Ah.
Okay, this is also one of my favorite topics at the moment.
Uh,
So, um, what you're collecting in your dust collector, in most cases, probably isn't microplastics. Microplastics is something, I think, if I remember, less than 1 micrometer or less than 5 micrometers. I can't remember exactly, right?
mm,
But it's really, really small. It's so small, you can't see it.
mm,
It's so small that it will float in the air. You know, on a summer's day,
mm.
in your lounge or in your salon, you get a shaft of light and you see all these speckles of
Yeah.
dust. That's how the microplastics would act.
Mm,
And they would float in the room until all the air has been removed and fresh air has been brought in.
mm.
And they're highly dangerous. To sit in that environment every
Yeah.
day with this microplastics building up like a pollution fog and you're inhaling it. And the worst thing
We're
is,
killing our skin, killing ourselves.
visible
Yeah.
dust, it's going to be trapped in your nasal passages.
Mm,
Okay. If you've ever done any decorating and you've sanded wallpaper or wood and you've got all this dust and your nose is getting filled with dust, right? And you're blowing it out, that's what would happen, right? Of course, you could breathe it in through your mouth. Okay. Nothing will stop that. But with the microplastics or nanoplastics particles, they will go down past the nasal passages deep into the lungs and they'll sit there. Okay. And here's the other thing which kind of concerns me, but nobody really talks about that I've seen. When we talk about correct curing, what we're talking about is 90 to 95% of the ingredients being used,
mm.
right? They're connecting to polymer chains.
Yeah.
And the polymer chains will be of different lengths for various reasons. But eventually, you know, this polymerization stops because basically the free ends, which can connect with the free radicals, which are coming from the photoinitiators, they can't find mates. They're like blocked off. It's like cul-de-sacs, right? And so the reaction just dies because it can't continue. There's
Yeah.
nothing there to join up anymore. It's within reach. So what does that mean? It means if a correct cure is 90 to 95%
Mm,
of ingredients used, conversely, it means that 10% to 5% of ingredients are unused.
mm.
They're in your dust.
Yeah.
Those reactive ingredients, that HEMA, HPMA,
Mm,
everything else, is not at 100% concentration for that formula, right?
mm.
But 10% or 5% of it is still active.
Yeah.
And now it's in your lungs. It's not just a benign plastic. If plastic could be called benign now, I mean, like a Perspex glass,
Mm.
you know, you would normally think there's nothing can go wrong with that, right? We're now learning that's not entirely true, but, you know, it's not going to help if these dust particles contain active ingredients.
Mm.
They're in your lungs. So using a filter system that is multiple stage, not just capturing the visible
Yeah.
ingredients, but also the invisible ingredients,
Yeah.
for me, it's one of the highest priorities. I mean, I started to learn about this in 2000. We are on the salon in 2006 in Stockholm, and I think 2006, 2007, I heard about a Swedish nail tech who developed asthma
Mm.
from fumes from solvents and monomer. And I looked into it and I found a company in Sweden that was making filters. And I got involved with the engineers and sucked information out of them, basically. And as a consequence of that, I bought 2 filters for our salon there. And then when I opened a salon in Ukraine, in classrooms, I bought more of them. And we became a reseller at one point as well. I think it's extremely important.
Yeah.
So, yeah, try to protect your health.
Yeah, that's it. Our head. I have 3 questions left. Very long life today.
Great, love it. Great, love it. More questions are better.
First, I have another thank you, Robert, for your time. This life is very
Always happy.
interesting.
If you want information and you want me to make more lives, I'm always happy to do it. Okay,
Yeah,
just
fantastic.
contact Marlene,
Yeah,
contact Mariana here in Germany. Send your questions, and we'll organise it. I'm always happy to do it.
yeah, that's great. And we're to save this life. So the life will be saved when we're finished. I have the last 3 questions about TPO. Why is TPO still found in some low cost or no name products?
I don't think that's true. I could mention some. Well, we used it. I don't think we're a low cost product, and there are other very well known brands who've been in the industry for 30, 40 years that are household names amongst nail salon owners, also use TPO. It's a misnomer that it's widely used amongst low cost products. It's a very effective photo initiator. It didn't
Yeah,
cause yellowing. You didn't need much of it. There were enough reasons to use TPO. There's no other reason to say,
yeah,
really. Okay?
okay.
It makes sense.
Um, are TPO free products just as effective when it comes to curing?
It should be. I mean, if the chemist does their job,
Yeah, well,
they will have to put in the replacement in the correct amount so that the product still cures correctly using the brand's lamp.
yeah,
That's what we have to do, and you have to do it for every product, for every
yeah,
color, because how a black gel polish cures will be totally different from how a green
mm,
gel polish cures or a white one. I mean, white and black are notoriously difficult.
yeah,
One absorbs the light and one reflects it.
yeah,
So, or different viscosities of gel, whether it's thin gel or thick gel, or if it's got
yeah,
fiberglass in it. There's all kinds of things, and you have to test and you have to reformulate every one. It's a major task.
mm, okay. I have one more question from somebody here in the live. Do you think of proposing refill format? I think she asked a while ago. Wait. Did you see? Do you see any impossibilities in proposing refill products? Do you think about it?
Honestly speaking, it's not on the top of my list. I can understand it's a convenience. Okay,
Yes.
from our side, it's another format we have to sell the same product in.
Mm,
We have to go out and we have to find the right packaging. We have to test that packaging in different ways, not just for leakaging, but with cosmetic packaging, there's other tests, long-term stability tests you have to make as well. And I get this question maybe once a year,
mm,
so I don't see the demand. So that's kind of what drives me. On the other hand, what people I speak to really want.
mm,
They really want more builders in Prima.
mm,
They want a clear HGX rubber base.
mm,
They want sculpting gels in pots for French. Those are the demands, and we can't just kind of go to a factory and
I
say,
know.
okay, show us your catalogue, and
That's it. Yeah,
we'll have that one, number five.
yeah.
Um, and we also want to produce products which are which stand out in some way,
Mm.
you know. So it's not enough to make a safer product, because most people don't care enough about safety that they would work with an inferior product.
Yeah,
So the product's got to be good, and the safety thing is also got to be there as well. For those who also want that. I mean, I would want both. I mean, as a salon owner, I wanted both.
yes,
I wanted a product that was safe, that meant that people could have long careers. Okay, and as a salon owner, you weren't harming anybody's health. Okay.
yeah,
I wanted products which were safe for the clients, and legally, as a salon owner, you have a legal duty
mm.
to
That's it.
do your research, to check that these things are safer. I think anybody who's buying products in China would have a real problem in a court of law defending the use of a product which
Mhm.
comes from a source which can't be proven, and
Mm.
where the country of source has a reputation for causing health issues.
Mm.
I think they'd have no chance of defence in law, and I think they're working with invalid insurance. I think the
Yeah,
insurance companies don't tell you that, but I think if you were to make a claim, they would invalidate the insurance overnight.
yeah, that's true. How, as a brand, do you trust your chemists to source high quality ingredients for formulas?
You hire the right people.
Yeah,
You hire the right people. You
that's it.
can't, if you run a business, and I do have a problem that I try to do too many jobs. Okay,
Mm.
and this is every smallish business owner has that problem, because you would love to hire another 20 people, but the problem is that
Yes,
those 20 people would only be working for 1 hour a month,
yeah,
because you only need that skill for that amount of time, right?
yeah,
So part of it is knowing when to delegate and knowing when something's out of your field of expertise.
mm.
I don't have the knowledge to prove it, but you have to go with people who have a reputation, who have the right education, who are
Yeah,
buying from companies within Europe that you recognise.
mm.
Does that mean that companies in Europe are all producing perfectly safe products?
Mm.
History would say no. It's more likely than in some other countries. Yeah,
Yeah,
you do the best you can.
yeah, that's right.
But at some
You
point,
have
you have
to.
to, you
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 have
have
to.
to, you have to prove, you have to trust people.
Yeah, that's it. I have another one here. Thank you for your care. What's the name of the best dust collector?
There are several. It depends on which country you're located in. Okay,
Mm.
I've actually written a guide on microplastics, which includes the names of different dust collectors um, from different countries.
Mm.
So in the UK, Vodex is one that I would look at. In
Mm.
Germany, Waller, Waller. What's the other one that's famous in Germany? The one under the desk, probably the one
Nova.
you use.
Is it? I have it myself here. Not Nova. Wait, no, I have to
Yeah,
look.
Nova.
Is it Nova?
Yes, Nova.
Yes,
Yeah,
it is. It
it's
is.
Nova. Yeah, they've
Yeah,
been on the market for years.
yeah,
In the States, Aerovex.
yeah.
Are you know the companies to trust are the companies that don't just make filters for nail salons. They're industrial air quality manufacturers or specialists. So they will also work in industry, cleaning out dirty air or in a chemical lab or wherever. They understand how to extract the contaminant, be it dust or be it chemicals, vapors, and how to clean them. Okay, so if you're in another country, by all means, send a message to help@iconicnails.com.
Yeah.
If you want this microplastics guide, which is absolutely free, explains all the risks of microplastics, i.e. dust in the nail salon. Also, the other types of filters that you should look at if you're using acrylic and you're using monomer and you want to get rid of the odor. The odor is not the issue. The fact is you're breathing in chemicals, solvents, which are dangerous and can cause asthma, okay? So you need then to have a carbon filter as well. That you won't get any of this. You will not get, from what I've seen, a good quality filter which sits on the table. I've been looking again over the last month, went to a few shows. Lots of companies, promise we're using a HEMA filter. Which HEMA? We don't know. There's different grades of HEMA, right? Some are okay for visible dust. Others you need for microparticles, all right? So you need to know. But they don't know. And if they can't answer a simple question like that, I wouldn't trust their products. Okay. And if they're using only one filter, like a cassette, or if they're using, God forbid, a tissue over the top, which it's not serious.
Okay. So
this industry is filled with mistruths.
I know. I have something else. Hello, Robert. Rebranded 6 months ago to Iconic, and all my allergies have stopped. Thank
Perfect.
you. Thanks to your brand and products, I've been able to continue work.
Great. Happy to
Fantastic.
hear it. That's why we started to avoid allergies.
Yeah.
We can't guarantee to help everybody because it
No.
depends on the immune system. It depends how many allergies they have, how sensitive they become. All of that's a factor of, how many allergies you have. It increases the sensitivity. Your DNA, your own DNA can also increase it. Your own genetics can also increase it. So we can't guarantee, but when we are able to help nail techs to extend their career,
Yeah.
it's
Me too.
gold. It's gold.
2012, I couldn't work anymore because my fingers were open and everything. So that's why
But
I'm the
it's
biggest
also
fan.
important,
I
Marla.
think I'm the biggest fan. You can see it.
It's also important that you find out why the allergy occurred, because at the end there must have been skin contact, right? And that could be because of undercuring due to the UV light. It could just be because the environment wasn't clean, right? And you need to eradicate that. And you need to make sure you're curing correctly and you're using the right lamp. And if you can't afford to change lamps right now, then what you do is you double the curing time. Okay, at least give yourself a level of protection. And if you do that, there's a good chance it will work. And I'm so happy for you. Thank you for letting me know. And it's always great to hear.
Yeah, it is. I have more questions now, but you know what? It's half
Okay.
past. It's 9. Oh my god! Oh my god!
Wow.
Oh, sorry. Wait now. Are you working on Cat Eye Prima gel polish? Well, it's
Oh
going on
my
now,
word!
so we want
Somebody's trying to get me
everything,
into
Robert.
trouble here.
We need everything.
Okay. Let me tell you that. Of course, I don't know where you are. Okay, where you're located when you ask that question. I'm gonna upset a lot of people. Okay. Cat eye in Europe and the UK are not legal.
A lot of things are not legal down there.
Boom, boom.
Yeah.
Okay, what is cat eye? It's a magnetic, it's a visual effect caused by magnetism, right? That you could define that as cat eye, right? You're putting the magnet near something, little particles in the gel are being attracted or repelled by the magnet to create these visual effects. There are 3 metals which are magnetic: nickel, iron, and I think the other is cobalt.
Yeah. Could be. Yeah.
So the cat eye product must contain iron powder or nickel powder. I hope it doesn't contain cobalt, because some people have serious
Yeah.
allergic reactions to cobalt.
And nickel
Now,
too.
it just so happens that I have a copy here of the EU regulations. This is, I don't know if you can see this. Very good. This is not a full amount. I don't know if you can read that.
I can't.
Okay. It says regulation EC number 1223 2009 of the European Parliament and of the Council of 30th of November 2009 on cosmetic products. So this is the cosmetic regulations. Okay, and I'll try to put it up there so you can really see the text. Okay, right. It's something like 151 pages. It's the Bible for brands and distributors. It tells us what we have to do. It tells us what information has to be on a product label. It tells us what packaging tests you have to do. Okay. It also tells us which ingredients are professional use only or are limited by volume, and that depends on the area of beauty that they use. So, you know, the regulations concerning under eye makeup, which is a very sensitive area of the skin, or the lips, are more stringent than, say, the back of the hand.
Yeah.
Right? And for hair products, it'll be different, right? For eyelashes, it'll be different because the proximity to the eyes, yes? And nails is different as well. So this is the Bible for anybody doing anything with cosmetics. And one part of that is called Annex 4. And again, I would try to, a little bit tricky for me to do that because I can't see from the phone.
Yeah, you can't read it. It's very small.
All right. Well, it says Annex 4, so it's part of this. List of colorants allowed in cosmetic products. List of colorants. And you can see there's tables here, right?
Yeah.
I think, let me just see how many, I think it's 150. No, 135. 135 different colorants which are permitted within cosmetics. Maybe not all cosmetics, but cosmetics. Now, what is a colorant? A colorant is anything that that changes the visual effect. So it's a pigment. Okay, for example. Okay, it could be a glitter. It can be anything that changes the effect of and the look of the nail product. Okay. If the ingredient is not in here, you can't use it.
Yeah.
It's not an issue of safety. It's an issue that is not in the list.
Yeah.
Right? Iron or ferrous powder or nickel is not included in the list.
No, they're not allowed.
Nor are glow-in-the-dark ingredients. Nor are heat-sensitive ingredients, color-changing ingredients.
I know.
All of those are not legal
Yeah.
for use in nail salons or actually to be sold.
Mm.
Now, no, for use on in nail salons. Now, that is why we and other companies who've produced their own products, employ their own experts, who want to follow the regulations
Mm.
and make safer products as well, don't produce those kind of products.
Yeah.
C&D could do it overnight. We could do it overnight. LE could do it. But you don't find them.
No.
Now, are they unsafe? No, it's not to do with safety. Iron filings is nothing. It's like rust. Okay,
Mm.
nobody gets. It's not a health hazard.
Yeah.
Nickel depends if you've got a nickel allergy, right?
That's right. Yeah.
But again, it's embedded in plastic when it's on the nail, so the risk is pretty low, right? So no point going crazy about it. Of course, you could sell cat eye on the premise, on the condition that you educate the users that
Mm.
it's not legal to use in a nail salon on customers,
Yeah.
but they might want to use it on their display tips or nail art displays.
Yeah. Yeah. That's allowed. But if you have it on a tip, your customer will want it. Yeah.
Is it a risk? I don't know. I mean, every company has to make their own decision.
Yeah.
We've really it's been something we've talked about internally a lot. We've had a lot of questions about it, and we're still not sure what to do. The reality is that first of all, it's not dangerous. Secondly, nobody's going to check,
Mm. Yeah.
and people want it, and they would prefer to have a hypoallergenic cat eye than one that's made in China.
Yeah. That's right.
So I don't know. Tell me
Yeah.
what you think. Tell me what you think.
Well, I think cat eye is nice. I think
Yeah.
we all love cat eye.
And the other issue actually is that it's kind of gone from the standard cat eyes. I mean, when did cat eye come out? About 6-7 years ago,
Yeah. I think it
around that,
was.
wasn't it? And now there are so many flavors. I mean, so many different variations.
Yeah.
I wouldn't know where to start because I don't really want to have 90 different cat eye colors
Mm.
if we were to produce something.
Yeah. I
The
just have
question
here.
is,
We
what?
want cat eye. We
Sorry.
want cat eye. Best quality possible from you, Robert. They're
All right.
going wide here.
Well, you have to not use it on customers, okay?
No, we would never use it on customers. It's just for fun, for having it in the salon.
Yeah.
So, one more question to TPO, the last one. What does Iconic use instead of TPO, and why is it safer?
I'm not. I can't say whether it's safe or not because I don't think the TPO in nail products
Yeah.
is dangerous, right? So you can't measure it. And the other thing is, if you're going to say something is more dangerous than another thing, you got to have some kind of proof
Mm.
because otherwise it's meaningless, right?
Yeah.
And the problem is with nail products, how are you going to prove something,
Mm.
right? So you can go back to one of my irritations in this business at times are those people, which can be educators or brand owners or fans of the above,
Mm.
who claim that hypoallergenic is purely a marketing technique to scam everybody.
Mm.
Well, let me tell you, I could make a lot more money, a lot faster, if I just bought products from a factory
Yes, of
and
course.
didn't have to worry about hiring people, testing, and trying to make impossible formulas work well. Okay, so it's absolutely true. There's no legal definition of hypoallergenic in the same way there's no actual legal definition of nail technician in most countries because there's no license. There's no recognized education. Okay,
Yeah.
so there's a lot of things in life which may not be written law, but they're what you would call common law. And a lot of things that are written law originally came from common law. You can't steal my ox.
Yeah.
Okay, you know, that upsets me. So
Really?
that became, things like that became written law at the end. But they were a way of behaving in society which everybody understood. Okay, and in the same way that we would use the word professional. Again, there are very few professional qualifications: lawyer, engineer, okay, not even scientists actually, because unless it's not just a case of getting a qualification. Often you've got to do an apprenticeship after that, some form of apprenticeship and proof period after that, in order to get the professional status from an institution, okay, which is legally recognized. So you can be an engineer without having this professional status. So I don't have that. I went off into other things, kind of into engineering, but I didn't want to be an engineer sitting in a workshop somewhere, so I didn't want this 2-year additional training after university and study and cost. But we understand generally that professional means something about the standard of service that you would get, the kind of standard of knowledge and expertise that somebody will present. They're acting professionally. But there's no legal definition for most people in that sense. And the problem with hypoallergenic is, how the hell do you prove it? How do you define it?
Yeah.
I'll tell you how you'd have to do it. You'd have to do a double-blind test. It means you'd have to have 2 groups of people. Some people just wearing nail polish. They don't know what it is, right? Just something on their nails. The other one's wearing artificial nail products. And because allergies take time and other negative effects take time, those groups would have to continue wearing that type of product for 10 or 20 years. And in the meantime, not use anything else.
Yeah.
But also, because the effect of allergy is cumulative, it means that, if you were using other products before you started using hypoallergenic products, it could be that you already had overexposed yourself, but you hadn't just tipped over, right? So you'd have to start with somebody who's basically an artificial nail virgin. And you'd have to have them wearing these products for 20 years without using anything else. Now, please try to find me any nail tech who's going to accept those conditions to prove something is hypoallergenic, right? But that's the way that you would test medicine, okay? Yeah. That's the way that you would test most things in a scientific method, okay? You'd compare the results of one with and one without. You can't do it. So that's why there's no legal definition, but there is a known definition, which is on Wikipedia. It's in most dictionaries.
Yeah.
And that means it's safer than.
It's safer, yeah.
And anything that contains none of the ingredients which are in the common patch test has to be safer than products that do.
Yeah.
It's not marketing. It's just fact.
That's right.
You are less at risk. Yeah. So, coming back to the question, we use an ingredient now called hydroxycyclohexylphenyl ketone. Okay, there's no short name for it like TPO. It's again one that's been in the industry for many years. It's not as efficient as TPO. But compared to the alternatives, that we could use, and I did make a list because I can't remember these chemical names either off the top of my head. Another one which is commonly used is called TPOL, okay? And that is a variation of TPO, but it's got the minus L.
Yeah.
And that's called ethyl 2,4,6 trimethyl benzyl phenylphosphonate.
Okay.
Okay, TPOL. There's another one which I've not seen in any safety data sheet myself, which is called 819 or BAPO. And there's another one which I found after doing some research called TMO. Now, TPOL is lower efficiency but still functional. 819 may cause yellowing in some applications. And TMO it's got a good performance in no yellowing. But why our chemists decided not to use that one, I don't know. It could be a question of cost and availability as well. So, it's not just one decision, it's usually the best choice for the application at the time.
Gut.
Yeah.
Sehr gut.
So.
Ich sehe Germany, sehr gut.
So there is one final question that I would add, which I think nobody has asked, but I thought somebody might do.
Okay.
And I wrote it down because I wanted to finish the live with these points.
Okay.
And that is, the question is, when did Iconic remove TPO? So
Yes.
we started that process in 2023, and in October 2023 we finished the process, and we updated the safety data sheet on our website.
Great.
So that's dated from October 2023, and it's got the other photo initiator in there. Okay.
Okay.
So that means if you bought products, let's say in 2022 and before, for sure, 2023, it depends when you bought it and which one, and it gets complicated. Then can you still use them? Well, there's a couple of aspects to this. The law, the cosmetic regulations, only refers to companies placing TPO products on the market. That means that as a factory or as a brand, you're not allowed to make for sale, put on the market, make for sale products containing TPO.
Yeah.
That would be the legal definition. It says nothing about salons. And they could have done. They chose not to, right? Because they weren't considering the nail industry.
Yeah.
They were considering industry, which was the problem, right? Okay. Now, I have gone to two regulators, one in Sweden and one in Germany, who I have direct contact with. I always like to check what one is saying above the other, right?
Yeah.
It's the engineer in me. And Sweden said, yeah, you're right. You're right. The law doesn't say anything about nail salon use, but we have other laws in Sweden which, if you're using a product which is being banned, essentially, for sale, you're putting your customers at risk, and therefore we think the law would apply to that. It's not the same law, but it's another one. So I said, okay. In Germany and in the Netherlands, because I then read a post actually last week, after I got the information from Germany, that in Netherlands, the authority there made the same decision. And maybe it was influenced by them in Belgium. I think Belgium started this, and it spread. That putting on the market could also apply to nail salons using it on customers because it's a paid service.
Yeah.
Right. I think they would struggle to defend that in court, personally.
Okay.
However, we will see what happens because there's still several months to go in Europe. It's the 1st of September. In the UK, it's the end of December next year.
Oh.
So, you know, things can happen, things can change. Certainly, not understandably, nail salon owners and, you know, brands too. I mean, some brands are using this to make hay right now. You know, that stuff we sold you, which is illegal now, you have to buy more from us. You know, and they're scaring the life out of people. But I think most brands, you know, don't want to press their customers to replace their products. You know, and we will see what happens over the next month, because here's the thing. Theoretically, you could buy a product containing TPO absolutely legally until, you know, 11 hours until 11 o'clock at night and 59 minutes, so 1 minute before midnight.
Yeah.
On the last day of August, legally, and 1 minute later you wouldn't be allowed to use it. It makes no sense.
It makes no
It's
sense.
unjust. It's an unjust law, and you know, you could argue that you know, that the authorities did warn that this law would be made, and it was made in June 2023, and they gave nearly 18 months for industry to adapt, which is fair enough. But, you know, most brands kept their mouth shut and kept on selling the illegal stuff.
Yeah.
You know, and of course now we're probably trying to defend their position. I mean, I was looking through the website the other night, and I saw that we wrote an article about TPO, or I wrote an article about TPO. I think it was in 2023 or 2024. So we were telling people even then, more than a year ago. So, but you know, for some people, obviously it's a big surprise, and they've got hundreds of colours, and they can't afford to replace them all, and they're you know, kind of upset.
Yeah, of course.
So we will see what happens. The other issue, other than this legal question, this legal fog, is an issue of insurance. Because I would suspect that most insurance companies, and we all know insurance companies don't like to pay out, would invalidate any kind of insurance claim if they discovered that products containing an illegal substance were used, irrespective of whether that was likely to cause the problem or not. They would say, this is not a professional attitude. This shows a certain lack of care to the customer. Yeah, and this is the same position that people who knowingly buy products from China also are at risk from, because you would say, well, why did you do that? Well, because I could buy a lot more colours for the same money. Well, that's not customer care. That's not customer care. You're you know, if you went to I've used this analogy before, if you went to a beauty salon and they put on creams from, let's say, you know, without being disparaging, from a country you wouldn't normally want creams on your face from, right? You'd be a bit offended, right? You'd be a bit offended. So I don't understand why this logic doesn't apply to nail products, and why it's okay to, you know, take a risk. And I don't know. Anyway,
yeah,
the industry is broad, and you know, there's people have, like with every kind of industry or market, there are people with different ideas, and there are those professionals, those who really care and do the best, and love their career and love their customers, and yeah, care about the hygiene and,
Yeah.
and the filters and, they're in it. They're the real kind of professional attitude. They're in it for the game. And there are those people
They don't
who
care.
it's just a paid social hobby and they
Mm.
don't care. And they existed before. I mean, I remember going into or seeing salons in town, and the filth on the top of the UV lamps you wouldn't believe,
Oh
or
God.
on the desks, and you think, what
Oh,
the hell? You're in the beauty business, by the way, not the garbage collection. The
I
beauty.
know. Oh God, oh God. Yeah. That's
On
not.
that happy note. On that happy note. Hey, I was going to tell you, Marlene.
But
You know these guys here that we made. We
yes.
made these, I think, 2018. These are our allergy guides here. I've got a German one here. I've got an English one here. New customers and actually even existing customers, we give these out all the time
Yeah.
with every order because we can't measure who's received it, who hasn't, So we put it in, and maybe they spread it around to other friends and
Mm.
stuff like
I
that.
have them
So
for my customers and everything.
yeah, okay.
Yeah.
So and we have it in other languages as well, and we're going to make those available. We've got it in Polish, in French, in Spanish, in
German.
Ukrainian, the German I've got here.
Mm.
That's German.
Oh yeah.
Or backwards, probably, yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, so the English one, we have a website called Say No to Allergies, which I started in like 2018. That's this logo here, Say No to Allergies. Today. We've had more than 14,000 downloads.
Great.
I didn't really notice. I haven't been paying
That's
attention.
really great. 14,000.
Can you imagine?
Wow.
Can you imagine?
Fantastic. Yeah.
That's amazing,
That's
isn't
really great. It is.
it?
14,000. Wow.
Yeah.
That's congratulations.
Thank you. I couldn't
Yes,
believe it.
great.
I had to double check it. I thought, really?
I would have double checked it too. That's great.
I should
Yeah.
be charging $1.
I know. I get 50%, please.
Yeah.
Yeah, great.
Yeah.
14,000. Wow.
Good. Well, it's spreading the word.
Yeah.
It was a good
Yeah.
idea at the time, and
It was.
so
Maybe you can
we'll
spread
keep
more.
on bashing them out, and yeah.
Yeah, great. Fantastic.
Okay. Hey, look at
Good.
the time. It's nearly 10
So what
o'clock. This
I'm
is
doing,
crazy. This is crazy.
I'm
Okay.
closing my book.
Okay.
I have to
So
bring
look,
Liam to bed.
let's thank everybody for their attention.
Yes.
And I hope it's more than just you and me talking here.
There is. I have
Yeah.
more questions, but like you can ask in the underneath. I would save this and you can ask underneath.
Yeah.
Or
Uh, we'll put in the names of the chemicals and what to look for tomorrow
yes,
because now it's getting pretty late.
it
And
is.
yeah.
We're 2 hours. We're 2 hours
Yeah.
online.
Amazing. Amazing. Who would
That's
have guessed that
great.
we could talk for so long?
I know.
What a
That's really
surprise.
great. I know. Okay,
Okay.
so
Everybody,
see you again.
thanks very much for your time, your attention, Marlene. Thanks for hosting.
Thanks for your
And
time.
yeah, we'll do this again, okay? So if you've got
Great.
particular questions or topics you want to discuss, let Marlene know. Put
Yeah.
a comment in here or send a message to Mariana, help@iconicnails.com,
Yeah.
and we'll organise something, okay?
That
Love
would
to
be
do it more
great.
often. Would love to do
Yeah,
it more.
we can.
Okay, and
Be
get ready for
writing.
next week. Got new products coming out next week.
Oh
So
yes.
get the kind of excitement going, drum
Yeah.
rolls. So,
I can't wait.
all right,
Okay, so thank you, Bob.
yeah.
Robert.
Cheers. Thanks,
Yeah,
Marlene.
bye.
Okay, bye everyone. Thanks for your
Bye.
time. Bye. Bye. Bye.
This- So that was our life. 2 hours. 2 hours. I'm kind of sweating. It was really great. Thank you for being here and thank you for the nice words. I have to close now. I will save the live, and if you have questions, ask in the story because we always ask in the story. If you have a question, you can ask here or write and let us know. So hope to see you soon. Good night. I'm going to bed now. It's 10 o'clock here in Germany. Bye bye.